Well, welcome everyone. Everyone, I mean, Raphael, Sagar, and Shivam. So welcome to the Elementor Sydney meetup for November. This will be the second last one. I think we'll do one next month. So this month we're talking about Beginner's Guide to Debugging in WordPress. Next month we are talking about setting smart business goals for 2023. I think towards the end of the year, everyone tends to kind of think about what they're going to do for the following year. So I think that'll be a good last one to wrap things up with. Tonight's agenda, we try to start on time, 6 p.m. We do some welcome and introductions, have a little bit to see what's new in the Elementor world, and then we'll carry on with the topic. And there should be some time for Q&A at the end if that's what you want to do. But we do try and aim to finish 7 o'clock or before, just so you can get away and do something else. Here's the organizers. Hi, I'm Will Brown. So I am a WordPress developer. I mostly do WordPress consultancy. And at the moment, I do a lot of integration for WordPress with other systems using Zapier, Integromat, or Make, as it's called, Uncanny Automator, those types of things. So I like to connect WordPress with other systems and send data backwards and forwards. So that's generally what I've been doing. I'll let John and Morris introduce themselves. Julia's not here, so she gives her apologies. But John, if you want to just give a little brief bio of what you do.
Yep, thank you, Will. I'm John, and I am a graphic designer, and I'm self-employed. I run my own design business, and I've used many different page builders in my life, and I've just fallen in love with Elementor. Now I kind of refuse to use anything else with clients. And just what I love about Elementor is it just allows me to be as creative as I want, and they keep doing updates to the program as well. That's their latest one, the Loop, is allowing me to be even more creative now. So yes, I am in love with Elementor. Over to you, Morris.
Hi. Yeah, I've been using Elementor for a couple of years. I'm more of a hobbyist. I've been doing website development since the early days of Front Page and moved on to Elementor probably 2 or 3 years ago. And yes, enjoying that very much. And also work in finance. So with the second job or the first job, whatever it's called. So yeah, here to learn and share as much as we can. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks, Morris. We do have a code of conduct for these. You can find that on the Elementor website, and I'll pop that down in the chat box as well. But basically, be respectful to each other. That's what it basically boils down to. I'm sure everyone here can do that. This is where we open up for the community. If you would like to introduce yourself, say what you do, and how you use WordPress or Elementor, then we'll give you 5 minutes each. If you want to say something, just put your hand up. You can use one of the little icons at the bottom of the Zoom chat to put your hand up, or you can just uncam and unmute and introduce yourself. It's not compulsory, so you don't have to do that. And we'd also like to know what you're drinking. I've got my hot tea, my decaf tea.
That's nice. Okay, so
yep, Shivam.
What is that? Yeah, what is that? You just showed, is that tea or what?
Tea, decaf tea.
Decaf tea. Oh, okay. But it's like decaf tea nice or what? I'm like, I've heard of decaf coffee, but decaf teas.
You get used to it. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Okay, so I'm Shivam. I am from India. I run a web agency for WordPress related services from we specialize in cybersecurity and performance optimization for WordPress websites. So yeah, and I would still like to be part of debugging, because sometimes even small things you might not know you get introduced to. And it's always nice connecting with other people over here. So yeah.
Great, welcome, Shiva. Anyone else like to introduce themselves?
Yeah, good morning or good evening. I'm Jonas from Germany. This is my second meeting. Last time I was with the WooCommerce introduction, which encouraged me to set up a WooCommerce shop, which is going quite well. But I don't know what's going to happen. That's why I joined this meeting. So maybe I need some help with debugging possible errors. So I'm glad that I can join this meeting.
Oh, thank you, Jonas. You are very welcome. It's glad to hear that you set up your own WooCommerce store. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so some Elementor updates. We do have some stuff this month, which is quite good. Sometimes Elementor developers go a little bit quiet, but they've been a bit busy this time. We have 2 new updates. So for Elementor Free, version 3.8 has come with 2 new features, 29 tweaks and 12 fixes. And the 2 new features are, and the first one is being widely asked for, is to revert your website back to its previous condition when you've installed one of the kits. So if you install one of these kits from the library, from Elementor library, now you can press a button and it actually removes all the stuff that it put in there. So that's really, really cool. So if you're looking to play around with things, you can quickly install a template kit. If you don't like it, just remove it from there and then try something else. So that's going to save people a ton of time to do that. So that's a real welcome addition. And the other one people have been waiting for ages is the container experiment. So it's now officially set as beta. It's been set as alpha for quite a while, but now they're actually setting it as a beta. So it's getting closer to becoming an actual actual product feature. So that'll be good to get to play with that. We've got 1 new change to Elementor Pro, 13 tweaks and 12 fixes. But as John mentioned in his introduction, the new release for the Elementor Pro is the Loop Builder. Now that's as a beta, so it's an experiment at the moment, but betas, you don't tend to stay beta for much, for quite a while. They tend to come full feature pretty quickly once they get into beta. So Loop Builder, so that allows you to build the query loop. So that's the main loop in WordPress or the main loop in WooCommerce that displays either your blog posts in WordPress or your products in WooCommerce. So that's really, really good. I think it comes on the back of Gutenberg or the block editor. They released their query block a couple of versions back. So now Elementor's kind of matching them, putting their cards on the table to say, look, we can do it as well. So it's going to give you fine control over what queries you can build in your Elementor designs. It's not just limited to posts. The Loop Builder is available for all post types. So if you've got custom post types in the back end, you can certainly bring your own loop and bring them in any way you like into your content. So that's a real welcome one. I'm going to have a play around with that towards the end of the month when I've got a little bit of time. But it's quite nice to see new stuff coming into both the free version and the pro version, and they seem to sync the version numbers up quite nicely this time. So they're all version 3.8, which is good. Whenever you update to Elementor, just make sure you're always doing backups. I know if you join some of the Elementor groups, you always get people screaming that, when I upgraded to Elementor, it broke my website. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's fairly common, but it can happen. So just have that little backup there just in case, or roll it out onto a staging site and just to see if there's any changes for those. Okay, moving on to our main topic tonight, debugging in WordPress. This is a beginner's guide to debugging in WordPress. So I'm not going to go hardcore, at least, well, not at the beginning anyway. So it should be a nice, easy, gentle introduction into looking into debugging in WordPress. Okay. So WordPress is a PHP application. PHP is the language, the code that WordPress is built on. And the code base is tens of thousands of lines long. And sometimes, things go wrong. Being able to troubleshoot WordPress issues will help you as a site administrator, as a site owner, get back up and running quickly, especially if you can't reach out to your developer, your designer, or perhaps you're on one of these hosting plans that's in a different country and you've kind of got to wait until their 9 till 5 opens. So like a gentle introduction. So when things go wrong, let's look at some ways that you can use the WordPress debug mode to try and figure out what's going on to get your WordPress website back up. Okay, so WordPress has a debugging mode built right into the core. And when it's switched on, then any PHP errors or warnings are displayed on the website. Now, while this can help you find issues, or you can pass it on to your developer or send it as a tech support ticket into your web post, having errors displayed on your publicly accessible website is probably not the best idea. It's certainly not good for client confidence for that or trust. So this is an example. This is a screen source, image sources from Kinsta. They wrote an article on debugging as well. So I'll just give them credit to them. But they've given a little, just to show you exactly what happens when you do turn debugging on and there's errors. You start to see at the very, very top of the website, this is in the back end, but this also happens in the front end. You start to see all these warnings and stuff that's starting to display. And that's not great. If you've got lots of people visiting your website, you don't want them to see errors and things. But luckily, WordPress has the ability to switch off errors to the screen and to enable a debugging to a file for later inspection. The other issue with the one to screen is even if no one's looking at it, it doesn't record it anywhere by default. So if you just turn on WordPress debugging, all you're going to get is that errors to screen. So it's not recorded anywhere. So you're going to have a bit of a problem trying to kind of follow through later on or try to describe that to someone else because there's no proof. There's nothing written anywhere. Okay, so to enable the debug mode, you're going to need to edit the WordPress configuration file. Now, the configuration file for WordPress is wp-config.php. And that usually sits in the public root directory of your web hosting account. Sometimes it's called public HTML. Sometimes it's called www. Sometimes it's called home. It just really depends. If you're not sure, then just look for the folder that contains the other folders called wp-content, wp-admin, wp-includes, then your config file will be in that same, or it should be in that same root folder as well. So you can access this file using the File Manager app on your web hosting account GUI, which is usually cPanel or Plesk or SiteGround. They've all got links to this File Manager. Right, and that's what you can see on the screen at the moment. So on the left-hand side, that's cPanel, and this is the new interface for cPanel. I can't quite remember what it's called. The old one used to be called Paper Lantern. This is a new one, so it looks a little bit different from probably what you see screenshots on the web. That skin's just been released recently. But there you go, there's a file manager highlighted, so you can click on that. And in the middle, that's just a little cropped version of the file manager. And this is just showing the list of folders. And here we can see the one that I was interested in was called public HTML. And within that, and that's the image on the right-hand side, we can see there's all the WordPress files, and the one highlighted is wp-config.php. Now, once you're in File Manager, you can right-hand click on that file, on that line there, and then it's going to come up with a whole list of options to edit. You can edit in a normal editor or a code editor. It doesn't really matter which one, but it does give you full editor rights to change that file. So that's how you go about editing that. So here we are, we're inside the file. Now, what you want to do first is scroll through the file to see if there's any debug definitions, if there's any already there. There usually is. There's usually one, that first one there, it says define, and then you've got wp_debug. There's usually one of those in there. But if not, you want to be pasting all these lines into your wp-config.php. Now, where you paste them in, you scroll down, you'll find a line. It's a comment line, which is a / and an asterisk. It says, that's all, stop editing, happy publishing. You want to make sure that you paste all your wp-config options and defines above that line, just to make sure you don't muck around with any of the other stuff that's underneath that. So let's go through some of these lines here and have a look what they are. Okay, so the first one is any line in your config file that's got 2 /, that's also a comment. So there's 2 ways to do comments. There's // and then there's you can put them in between a / and an asterisk, and then an asterisk and another /. So that's a comment. And so comments are just really to help humans figure out what's happening next. So you can safely ignore it. You don't have to copy that in, but it's useful for a reference for beginners. but the one that we're looking at really is the next one here. So this is the one that controls the WordPress core debugging. So you can switch it on for true and off to set that to false. And it's just define, and it's a WP_debug. And again, it just takes true or false. So again, just going back to the other slide, if you just put on true, so if you switch on, you don't put any of the other lines underneath, and it's just going to output errors and warnings to screen, which we don't really want to do. So let's keep going. Okay, ignoring that comment there, it's just telling you what's happening. The next definition is WP_debug_log. And what this one is, if you set that to true, it's actually going to start creating a debug file. So as the comment above says, the default debug log file, you can find it in your WP-content folder. So that's a folder that contains your themes, your plugins, your uploads, stuff like that. And you'll find a file called debug.log in there. And this is a persistent file. So it doesn't go away. And it just logs all the PHP warnings and all the errors into that file. So it's useful to do that. And then you can just go around later on and just have a look through the file. You can send it to your developer, you can send it to your tech support and all that sort of good stuff. So it's good to have a persistent log of all the errors that are happening. Okay, next. These two lines here, they actually turn off the errors to screen. And that's what you want to do. You want to turn off the errors to screen because you don't want public people seeing any PHP warnings. So there's two lines here. The first line is a definition. So it's WP_debug_display, and then we set that to false. So we don't want to display stuff onto screen. But sometimes that doesn't happen because there's another setting. There's a PHP setting that tells PHP itself at an application level to put out warnings to the screen. So we want to make sure we override that. And the way we do that is the second line there, which is an @any_set. So we're setting a php.any setting, we're overriding it here, and we're telling the variable display_errors to set that to 0. 1 is true, 0 is false, just another way to say false. So two important lines there if you want to stop the PHP warnings going out to screen. First one is the PHP definition, WP_debug_display set to false. And the other one is equally as important, that's a php.any definition, which overrides the PHP application's settings, and we tell that not to display any errors. So if we can copy all those files into your PHP, to wp-config.php file, and then go back to your main website, refresh the screen, then you shouldn't see any warnings. And if you go into File Manager, you should be able to see this debug.log file with all the errors in there. There we go. Okay, so it's equally as important once you have resolved the issue is to disable Windows debug mode. A lot of people kind of forget about that and just leave it there. But having WordPress in debug mode, it slows down your website. So writing stuff to files, even if it's 1 or 2 lines, is a very, very slow process for a web server compared to, not doing it. So we want to turn that off to increase your page speed, of course. So we just go back into your wp-config.php file, scroll down to where that WP_debug definition is, and just set that to false. And then all the stuff underneath about log into screen and log into a file, they'll be ignored, because if the debug mode is turned off, then all those other lines are irrelevant anyway. They only they're only relevant once you turn the debug mode on. So make sure you disable your WordPress debug mode afterwards. It's very, very important. Okay, so let's look at this debug file, debug.log file. Okay, so looking inside of some, you'll notice that there's 2 types of PHP errors that are recorded in here. The first one is a PHP warning, and the second one is a PHP error, or PHP fatal error, as it's called, because it's very dramatic. Now, each new error logged in the debug.log file has a timestamp at the very beginning in square brackets, followed by the error or the error type, and then any information associated with the error is then added afterwards. So if you're looking for a new line entry in the debug, then you're looking for that square bracket with that timestamp, and that's one error that's been logged to the file. Now, sometimes you get quite a lot of information in the debug log file for one issue. Sometimes WordPress will generate a stack trace If you don't know what that is, that's all right. It's not relevant to this talk, but it does include a whole list of things. So you could find one PHP error or warning. It could actually kind of scroll 2 or 3 pages long until you get to the next timestamp. So just keep an eye out for that and just be aware that all that information just belongs to that one issue. Okay, so PHP warnings. So PHP warnings are just that. It is a warning that something isn't working the way it kind of should, but it's not really serious enough yet to cause an error that's going to crash the application, in this case, WordPress. So in the example on the screen, we have a warning that the function mysqli_real_connect couldn't make a connection. Now, this is one of the WordPress core functions that operates a database connection. And the supporting information here, so after that main error, it gives the file path and it gives the file name and a line number where the warning was generated from. So this is really super useful information for a developer tracking down where the issue occurred, and for you as a site administrator, knowing exactly which plugin or theme is causing the issue. Now, in this case here, you can see I've been running it on my local machine. So this is my Dropbox folder, and that's where I have all my projects. So you see it's in Dropbox, projects, Bitbucket is where I have my private Git repositories. I've renamed the client for obvious reasons, and then it's in the www folder, which is my root local folder. WP includes, and then wp-db.php online 1635. So it's really specific. Just a note on some PHP warnings in that if a plugin is causing a particular WordPress issue, it'll probably tell you where the error is in WordPress first, and then you have to look further down to see what was causing that issue in WordPress. Because obviously WordPress itself, 9 out of 10 times doesn't generate these errors because it's all been checked. It's usually a plugin that's doing that. So just keep scrolling down just before the next timestamp, just to see if there's any additional information to see which plugin is forcing WordPress to cause that error. Okay, let's see. So in this case, WordPress, for a warning, WordPress will continue to run, even though PHP is generating a warning. However, you really should address these warnings, as they could at some future point turn into errors, especially when updating to higher versions of PHP. And I say especially because PHP 7.4, which most people are on at the moment, it's actually end of life, end of support in probably 3 or 4 weeks. I think it's the end of this month, which means you're probably going to get an email from all your web hosting providers to say you've really got to upgrade to PHP 8 at the very least. And with PHP version 8, it's much more strict than PHP 7. So what they've done in PHP 8 is to become much more strict on the variables and types and stuff. So the way that developers have coded in the past, which might not be strictly, adhere to proper types and things, when you upgrade to PHP 8, it's going to be really strict. And it's going to look at all that stuff and go, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. So just as like a segue, if you are thinking about upgrading your website to PHP 8, definitely copy your sites over to staging server, update the PHP to 8 there, and turn on debugging and just have a look in the debug file to see what all the warnings are, because you will get at least one, I can guarantee you. Anyway, getting away from PHP 8, that's another talk. That's a PHP warning. So WordPress still runs, but it's still generating this warnings. Go and have a look at it. The next one is a PHP fatal error. So fatal errors, they basically cause the WordPress application to crash, to stop working. They just basically bomb out at that particular line number. And now in the past, this has led to the infamous white screen of death, where instead of the website showing there, the website visitor just sees this white screen of nothingness. So not very helpful at all. And website users usually freak out at that point, not surprisingly. But as of WordPress 5.2, the core team have tried their very best to try and catch that fatal error and wrap a little bit of goodness around that. So as of WordPress 5.2, if PHP has a fatal error, it usually generates a message on screen now telling visitors that the site is having some technical difficulties. and an email is sent to the WordPress administrator to allow them to get into the backend in a kind of safe mode, so they can disable plugins and figure out what's going on in there. So a little bit better than just a big white screen, but again, can't get away from it. PHP fatal error just stops the WordPress working at that point, so you've basically got no website, so you need to go and fix it. In this example on screen, a PHP fatal error has occurred in the file class-woo-sidebears.php at line number 170. So within the Woo sidebars plugin. Now I can tell which plugin that error is from the folder name. I kind of know that, or you could just Google it. You can Google WordPress and then put in the folder name, and it will come up 99% of the time which plugin or theme that is. So I can tell in this case, it's the Woo sidebars plugin that's caused this issue. And in this case, me as a site administrator, not being able to contact my support, not being able to contact my developer, I can go directly into cPanel. I can go into File Manager app, and I can move that folder. You'll find it in WP content/plugins, and then move that folder Woo sidebars, move it up one directory, or create a new folder called plugins.old and whack it in there. And basically, if the folder is not in the /plugins folder, next time you refresh WordPress, it's going to think that plugin's missing and it's just going to ignore it. And if that's causing the fatal error, then 9 out of 10 times your website is going to be recovered. Yes, you're not going to have the functionality from that plugin, but that's something that you can then resolve in the back end while your visitors can still see your active website for that one. So that's the basics of using WordPress debug mode to find warnings and errors in a debug.log file. A quick way of being able to diagnose the errors yourself and hopefully get your website up and running if you have one of those fatal errors and just kind of crashes out. At least you've got somewhere to go to figure out what's happening, and then you've got a strategy, if it's a plugin, to then just get rid of that plugin, move it away somewhere out of the WP content/plugins folder, refresh, and hopefully 9 out of 10 times that should bring your WordPress website back to life, minus the features that plugin provided. Okay, so that's the main WordPress core debug system, but there are other tools that can help resolve issues with WordPress. Now, if you notice something wrong with your website that doesn't cause it to crash, maybe it's missing some elements, or some functionality is not working the way that you expect it. They're the most popular web browsers, so Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and Safari. They support something called developer tools that include an inspector tool. So in this one, this is a screenshot from Chrome. So in Chrome, right-hand click anywhere on a website, on your website you want to have a look at, and then choose the inspect option right at the very bottom. Or you can go to the 3 vertical dots in the top right, go down to more tools, then developer tools, and then inspect as well. Or there's usually a hotkey combination. So in this case, it's Control-Shift and I, or Command-Shift and I on the Mac. And what that's going to do is going to bring up this little window here. Now, it looks a bit scary if you're not a developer. If you're not used to all this sort of stuff, you're like, well, it just looks like a bunch of gobbledygook, which it basically is. So the inspector window, it's roughly split into 3 sections. And what will happen is your website will be on the left-hand side, and this inspection window will be on the right-hand side. So in this window here, at the top left, basically shows the HTML of the web page that you're currently visiting or browsing or inspecting. So that's got all the HTML goodies in there. The top right shows the CSS that's applied to any of the HTML element that you currently have selected in the main window, in the website window. And the bottom area, it shows something called a console. Now, the console here area is where any non-PHP errors are usually shown. Now, a lot of the stuff that can cause things to go missing with WordPress are usually JavaScript issues. So a lot of plugins use JavaScript for manipulating the website and moving things around, things like that. If you see that things aren't working properly, come in here, have a look at the console down at the bottom there, and that will show you any JavaScript issues for there. And I don't have any in the screenshot here. I've run out of time to try and generate an error. But basically, it's the same as the debug.log file. It will tell you which library or which file that error was generating, and usually the line number as well. So we can kind of see here that the right-hand side of the console area, that tells you the file or the file path and the line number of issue as well. So you can see there's a few things there. There's one that's coming with WebSocket close was unclean, and then it's given a little modules file. And you can click on that file, and that'll take you within this inspector. It'll take you to that file and to that particular line number as well, so you can have a look and see exactly what's causing the issue. So having this as an additional tool from the debug.log, you can certainly inspect both things. So you can have a look at PHP if there's errors, but also if there's like things missing or not quite right, come into here, have a look at the console, see if there's any JavaScript errors that are being generated. If they are, the same technique applies. You can get that information into a support ticket for your web host. You can give it to your developer. Or if you can see that's coming from a specific plugin, then you can then have the option to disable that plugin and then try and fix it later. Or you can remove it if that's what you want to do, and find an alternative. But definitely a great second place to go to try and debug issues on your WordPress website. Okay. Almost done. So when WordPress debug mode is enabled, there's several plugins that can help you debug issues with your site as well. So if you don't want to go trawling around in debug.log file, if you don't want to go into cPanel and have a look at all that sort of stuff, here's a couple of options for you. So this one is called the Debug Bar. It's very, very popular for this one, and most developers will have this installed when they're developing the website project. So this plugin, it adds a debug menu to the admin bar right at the top, and it shows things like queries, caches. It tells you what version of PHP, MySQL you're in, and it also tells you how much memory is being used on the page as well. So this is an absolute must for developers, but it's really useful for hunting down some errors as well with WordPress, especially if your website's slow or something's not quite working well. There's lots of add-ins or add-ons for Debug Bar as well that enhance this the functionality to monitor things like filters, hooks, cron jobs, which is the WordPress scheduler, transients, which are our temporary cache stored in the database, remote requests, the whole thing. There's a whole list of Debug Bar add-ons that you can get, and the links there, and I'll pop that into the chat as well. So you've got that there. But what we can see here at the very top, it's saying the number of queries. So I've got queries selected, and queries is just the database queries. So it's asking the database for information. And we can see here there's been a total of 37 queries for this particular page that I'm on. And the total time it's taken to do that is 21.8 milliseconds. So this is another good way of trying to figure out how, if your website's pages are really slow, is to install a debug bar and then just have a look at the slow page and see what's going on. So if you find that the total queries are like hundreds, and it's taken, 5 seconds, 500 milliseconds to come back, then you can scroll down these queries and you can actually see which ones are taking the most time. So that's just the top 3 here. My SQL statements, you can see the first one was 0.9, another one was 0.4, another one was 0.4. That's great. But if you scroll down and see one that's taking 2 or 3 seconds, then you can figure out from all the stuff underneath, which particular plugins is using that query, and that's you starting to hone in on which plugin or which theme component is making that page really, really slow. So some useful information to scroll through there. Okay, another fantastic debug plugin is Query Monitor. So the URL's at the bottom. So this plugin here, it shows all the database queries. So the debug log, the one before, it shows them all as well, but this one's a little bit more graphical for this. So this is when you're trying to deal with database issues. So you know it's slow, and you want to kind of dig down a bit deeper into what's going on in that database. So this plugin shows all the database queries that WordPress is making on a specific page, including the number of queries and the time it takes to get a response back as well. So this plugin, again, similar to Debug Bar, can be super helpful if you're trying to figure out why pages are so slow. So in here, you can see at the top, it's telling you that we've got 1.82 seconds. Then we've got the page load. So it was the 28 kilobytes. The queries themselves took 0.052 seconds, and there was 19 of them. And then there's other views where you can have a look and you can drill down to see exactly, what queries are being made, who's making it, what the database is doing, what tables there are, and what data is being passed. So you can really drill down and see exactly, what WordPress is doing, how it's building up your page, bit by bit, query by query, and then you can try and find that bottleneck for where it's slowed down. So here it's another one. It's just another view here. So it's the overview. And again, at the top, it tells you the page load time, the page load, the number of seconds it takes for all the queries, and there was 32 queries there. And there's just a bit of an overview at the very top. But again, down the side, on the left-hand side, you can go into minute detail with all the different queries that's happening with your database. So this plugin is useful if you're debugging different areas of WordPress, including like database queries, PHP errors, hooks, remote calls, all that sort of stuff. So really some useful tools there. That's it. So I tried to make it as short as possible and as entry level as possible as well. So that's my beginner's guide to debugging WordPress. From using the WordPress debug mode and the log file to a little bit more advanced specific plugin tools, and not forgetting the browser inspect element for those JavaScript issues as well. That's it. Any questions? I'm just going to stop my screen share. If you've got any questions, then happily just put them in chat or come up yourself and ask me directly, and I'll try my very, very best to answer them or point in the right direction anyway. Stunned silence. Information overload. Well, this meetup's been recorded. So what I will do is I'll get the video and we'll post it up on the Facebook page and on the YouTube site as well. So you'll be able to get a link. I'll do all the links as well and put them in the description. Shivam, you had a question?
No, I was like, it was nice and all. So.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. John, Morris, do you have any questions about debugging WordPress?
Yes, I have a quick question. I mean, obviously, like the main thing that I get from this being, a web designer is just the speed of everything. And thanks for sharing like that query monitor and the other one, stuff like that, because I think that's it's not something I've used before, but it will point out what is slowing my website down. But then I guess, where do I go from there? Because the thing I'm concerned about here is obviously everything you're saying here. I'll go and I'll change one line of code and I've broken the entire website. Where would you recommend that I go to sort of find, aside from just asking you, find someone to basically go in and fix all those problems to speed it up? Because I think from this, I'll be able to tell what is slowing it down. But then with the exception of just switching a plugin off, like where would I kind of find someone to help me with that?
Yeah, I mean, so this being a beginner's guide, so it's, as you say, it's pointing people in the right direction. So if you don't have a developer at hand, if your tech support probably isn't supportive enough, then yeah, it leads you to the option of finding an alternative plugin or an alternative way of doing something. Other than that, those last two plugins are very developer focused. So you would probably have to engage some sort of developer to go in and have a look at that. If you don't have developers on hand, we have, if you join the WordPress Australia Slack group, so if you visit wpaustralia.org, there's a link there to join our Slack group. I know there's some people from overseas, but still we're a really helpful bunch here in Australia, so you can still ask us stuff anyway. And there's a lot of developers on there and they will point you in the right direction of someone or some resource that will help you get that done. If not, there's always fiverr.com. There's some good coders on fiverr.com that you can just hire as a per job. Or there's a few Australian developers as well that kind of just do ad hoc stuff. So, by the hour or by the issue that you can hire. So you don't have to hire, a full stack developer $1,000 a day just to get one little thing done. There are options out there that are kind of more specific and bite-sized. If you're not a developer, you just want to get some stuff fixed.
Yeah, that really helps. I think this is the problem. I could just kind of message someone and just go, hey, fix my website. I've got no idea what they're doing, how long it's going to take them, but this will allow me to kind of like pinpoint what the problems are, I suppose. So yeah, that might get the cost of the developer down a bit. So yeah, that's really helpful. Thanks.
It's also useful for page builders, the query builder, because, you know, page builders like Elementor, Divi, Beaver Builder, Oxygen, because they're such a high level, a lot of the stuff that it does is in the back end with queries and with database connections. So if you're adding lots of components onto a page, not surprisingly, it's going to slow it down. But if it's really slow, then you can maybe use Query Monitor to have a look to see exactly which element is the slowest. And then that might give you a reasonable option to reconsider that or find an alternative from that. So again, if you're using page builders, you know, a couple of these tools are quite useful for speed diagnostics.
Yeah, that's really good because again, I just kind of run everything in Elementor, I suppose, without being aware of what is slowing it down. So yeah, that's really useful.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're doing page speed tests using Google Lighthouse or something like that, it's just going to give you the overall speed from the page. It's not going to break it down into specific components like database queries and stuff.
Okay, cool.
Brilliant. So if no one else has got any questions, I am going to call that a wrap for this month.
So I have one.
Yep, go for it.
Yeah. So how's your experience with the PHP 8 and 8.1?
Okay.
In terms of bugs and all, and you know.
Yeah, disastrous is a word that I'd use.
Like which one are you using, 8 or 8.1?
8.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I actually did some experiments today with PHP 8, and I'm not going to name names here, but Beaver Builder was throwing up errors. So one of my older Beaver Builder websites threw up some PHP warning errors for that. So that wasn't a good sign. You'd expect some of the big players to sit nice with PHP 8, considering there's going to be a big push to move over at the end of this month. So yeah, my overall.
That's what I was wondering is, like, you know, PHP, like the 7.4 is coming end of life.
Yeah.
And 8 is still like, there's like so many plugins which are still not ready with the, you know, supporting PHP 8. It's crazy, you know, like.
It is.
So yeah.
It's crazy and it's disappointing because people have had a long time to get this ready. But even some of the smaller plugins, you know, plugins that maybe just do like one or two specific things, that have always worked before, some of them no longer work with PHP just because the developer's not being strict with variable settings or stuff. So it's not even just the big things. It can be like the small things like, you know, cloning web pages, you know, a cloner. There was one of those that didn't work when I switched over. It wasn't the Yoast one, it was a different one. So when I switched over to PHP 8, that didn't work. And it's only a couple of files. It's a plugin with a couple of files, you know, it's not a huge thing. So yeah, overall, I'm not feeling good vibes with moving over to PHP 8. And certainly with my own websites, I'm going to have to go in and fix some things in some of these plugins. And then I'll submit a request to the developer to they do the same as well if they're around or alive, because some of these plugins are pretty old. Yeah, but again, PHP 8.1, it plays nice with Elementor. It plays nice with WordPress core. So that's a good sign for those. Again, it's the third-party plugins that let it down, unfortunately.
True.
Great question. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Ron, that's it. I'm going to call it a wrap. What time is it? Yep, 6:45. So thank you very much for coming along. Thanks for your questions as well. And next month, setting smart business goals for 2023. Join me and I'll give you some tips and tricks for goal setting for those. So thank you again, and hopefully see you next month. Bye, everyone.
Okay, thank you,
Will.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Bye.